Absolutely amazing, mate. Phenomenal.
Cool. We should have taken the opportunity to have opened with a meow, 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 meow. I can't quite do it as justice. Sirens. There we go. They came. Bang on cue.
That signals
the start of an F1 Failcast podcast. Hello, everybody, and welcome, you beautiful souls, whether you wanted to or not. Welcome to an extremely special edition of the Failcast F1 podcast. Myself is here, and alongside me, as always, is the amazing taco extraordinaire who had just said he'd been to see Fleetwood Mac, and it is Mr. Definitely Zero. How you doing?
Pip, old boy. I'm boiling in my own juices. It's 33 degrees here today, and my office has no air conditioning. So I was going to do face cam for this because it's my first time breaking out the wheel on stream. So it's a super mega double special occasion. But I decided that I respect our viewers too much to subject them to my pasty otter-like body in nothing but boxer shorts and socks because it's unbearably hot. It's going to be 38 tomorrow as well, so I may well be dead before we meet again.
38? Christ.
38 feels like 41, as if, might as well kick me in the balls while I'm down. But it is fantastic as ever to be here. It's a special episode, like you said, because obviously we weren't able to finish our last season because Codemasters are dropping the new game. Well, if you bought the early Superman Big Fan Racing Point Badger Stroll edition, you've already got it, I believe.
Yeah, it came out today, in the UK at least.
Yeah. And obviously, you and I don't do our launch day specials anymore because there's no reason when Codemasters give codes to everyone except us.
No, that's true. Although I will be broadcasting that evening, I think, just to kind of have a little rummage around. But
me too, actually. I'll be starting my career mode on Friday afternoon, and then I'm flying to Finland for the weekend.
Nice. But
maybe we can do an episode. We can kick off our season on the Sunday after the Austrian Grand Prix, possibly. But we can sort that out after and let everyone know. But welcome one and all. This is, we've been doing this. We're coming up on starting our 10th year before long. Yeah, I know.
A decade of fail.
A decade of fail. But for the first time in our virtual careers together, we are driving IndyCar, which we've never done before. And this is the first time we've streamed a non-F1 Codemasters game together, except for that time we did F1 Racing All-Stars, which was hilarious. So the more astute of you will notice this is Project Cars 2, and having both only dipped our toes a little bit in IndyCar with catastrophic outcomes, in order to fill the stream and make it a respectable length, this is the first of what I hope will be a recurring event between seasons of the Failcast. Welcome then to the unlikely World Motorsport Championships. We're going to have 3 events, and we're going to run a mini championship here, starting with Norway, round 1, where we'll be driving LMP1 cars in a heavy thunderstorm turning to blizzard, on what is ostensibly a rallycross track, completely undesigned for cars of this wheelbase. Also, I will be driving fully manually on my Thrustmaster wheel, which I'm terrible with. We'll then move on to Sweden for round 2, where at the Mercedes-Benz test track, which is all ice, we will be driving classic Formula 1 cars. And each winner from these events will pick up 5 points, whichever of us wins. And then we will finish with an extra 5 points for whoever beats the other at Indy. And Indy will include AI. There'll be no AI in the first 2 events. That's all about us. But IndyCar, obviously, we will have a grid. And IndyCar we will run for about 100 laps, which I think should put us about 50 minutes. It's about 30-something seconds, right, per lap?
Yeah, about 35, yeah, something like that.
So without further ado, shall we jump into this? I imagine this is going to be harder to host than even Monaco. Now, some of you who maybe keep an eye on my Instagram will notice that I've dabbled with things like this before. But honestly, that was just for photo opportunities, and I've never done it with a wheel. Ever. And all I can say from the limited experience I've got is that however slow you think you have to go to keep control of the car, you're wrong.
Am I going to have one of those like 5 mile an hour pathetic accidents spinning around like a donut into a barrier?
Yes, I think you might.
Yeah. Oh, that rain looks soggy.
Beautiful day for it. We'll be staying on the standard loose setup, I believe. We have all-terrain tyres fitted, which I didn't know they made them for LMP1.
Oh.
Are you ready, sir?
I am. It's loaded me a stable setup, but I feel that the word is a bit too over-optimistic for what it thinks I'm going to be doing. Cool. Yeah, ready when you are, good sir. Oh, God.
I'm already looking forward to this.
The dread. The dread.
Oh.
Okay, where are we going? What are we doing? Where's this go? Oh no, I don't want to joke lap it straight away, do I? Ah! Oh! Swabby bags.
Oh.
Oh! Bit wide. Bit soggy. Oh, I forgot this car's got curves as well. Oh, I put the pit lane speed.
To be honest, that might not be such a bad move.
Just going round on the pit lane speed limiter.
Just going round on the pit limiter. Oh no, I've lost traction. I'm coming for you now.
Oh.
Shit.
No, not sixth gear in the gravel, Simon. Come on. You can do this. We do have to joker it, don't we?
Yes. One joker lap, please.
I'm on it.
I think you've definitely got my number here.
I don't know. No. Oh, hello.
Oh. Damn traffic. I keep forgetting to turn up my gears as well.
I'm surprised though at how
no, I've gone.
I'm surprised at how good it feels to flow an LMP1 over a jump.
Yeah. You've definitely got me now because I've just gone into the barrier.
God.
Oh, what am I doing? What am I doing? Right. Get out of neutral. There we go. Right, you're gonna lap me, I think.
I could do this one of a best of 3 or something.
Welcome everyone
Yeah.
to the Failcast podcast, where we'll be attempting to discuss on cold tyres the French Grand Prix.
Shouldn't take too long.
No, which was possibly the dullest event of my life.
So as a side note, I went away to Great Yarmouth for the weekend, and I was like, oh, can't wait to watch the French Grand Prix when I get back home. Got home, admittedly it'd been 3.5 hours on a train, sat in, I'd fallen asleep on the sofa before lap 20, and then stupidly was like in the morning for breakfast. I was like, oh, I'll watch it. I must have missed something. No, I'd done the right thing first time round.
What is... I don't know where I am now.
You're on the infield. You're on the infield. Yeah. I can see like a dot that's not on any track whatsoever. You're just having a little swim. How the hell did you get in there?
The car hit a bump and then just threw itself over. I don't know.
If you go to... If you go round
this is amazing. We should. Oh, there's a little bit of tarmac on the outside of one of the corners.
I want to see where you've gone.
I'm back on the track now.
Oh,
or a close approximation of the track. Keep driving, or else we'll never finish.
Oh, hang on. I've beached it. I've gone up. I went to go and find where you'd got to, and now I've ended up reversing down a hill somewhere. Hang on. There we go. I'm back on.
Be careful, because I'm coming for you. I may unlap myself here.
I think you have, because I can see you right in front of me.
Just for some comfort, you should be advised that the blizzard is expected to start soon.
Mine's already blizzarding.
Oh yeah.
I do like that change from rain to snow.
I thought it would spice things up a bit.
Because it needed more paprika on the subject.
But here's a question for you. Is this the most boring F1 season we've had for, I don't know, 20 years?
Yes.
Oh.
Where'd you go? Yeah, I think it is actually, mainly because, and it's not very often that I agree with what Peter Windsor says, because I find his channel more funny for the fact that he wants to wear hip, like racing caps but while striding like a Skoda. It's like someone's trying to advertise for Saga car insurance, but also wants to release a hip hop album at the same time.
Yeah, he's not the. I don't view him as the most credible source, to be honest, particularly because I remember him quite specifically lying to me about his F1 team.
But
you know, when he was posting pictures like, "Oh, we've signed Jose Maria Lopez, and look, here's the nose cone," and it was just like there was nothing happening.
Oh, USF1, lols. We would. So what he said, but it was an interesting one because I kind of thought actually that kind of makes sense. He said it doesn't really matter how many cars are battling up front for the lead necessarily, so long as you have good inter-team rivalry, so that you can have two drivers going wheel to wheel, battling in the same machinery to put up a proper quote-unquote fight. And what he was saying was that Bottas is no match for Hamilton. Interestingly, Ferrari have got Leclerc and showing up Vettel pretty much now. So that's kind of gone the weird other way when they're allowed to fight. Red Bull, Gasly is nowhere, so Verstappen is walking all over that. And then it's the rest of the field, which is fun, but you can't pull in a headline anywhere for it. Which I think is why everyone's gone so nuts and clinged on to the Canada penalty, because it's the first bit of any vague juiciness that came up all year, because we've got nothing to go on, because there is no rivalry. We all know deep down that Bottas 2.0 is still going to bend down and rim Hamilton's sphincter till the cows come home. As much as I'd love it to be different.
That is a great analogy. Then see, like here's the thing for me. I don't necessarily agree that Bottas hasn't got what it takes. He just doesn't seem to have it consistently.
Yeah.
And what bugs me is that he's on that fine line, right, between having done just enough, I think, to make Mercedes somewhat comfortable with keeping him, but by the same metric, he's also someone who could be convincingly replaced, I think.
Yeah, it's awkward. Should we do a second run through of that now that we've got the hang of it, just for lulz? Because that was good fun, and it was quite quick as well.
Yeah, all right. We'll call that first one a warm up.
Yeah, a warm up in the snow.
Because we still got Ocon on the outside,
Yep.
but I'm not even necessarily sure Ocon would have spiced it up, to be honest.
No.
Hamilton's in one of his states, isn't he, really? Where...
Such a good term.
But you know what I mean, right? Where he's constantly complaining about the car, but setting fastest laps every time he does.
Yeah.
The tyres are blistering. Fastest lap. It's more Ferrari I'm really disappointed in. Right, which setup did you say you was on?
So it gave me... It gave me stable. but it's a preset. It's not. I haven't got like a specific setup for it. It just says stable.
Right. I am messing with my suspension.
Oh no. Not
right,
one of those.
I don't know. I don't know if this is a good setup or not. Let's just do it. But yeah, I don't necessarily blame Mercedes or Hamilton for it being such a boring season. Oh, hello, Beetlejuice. Welcome to our in-between season special. This is going to be our IndyCar special, but because we can't run Indy full distance, welcome to the world's first unlikely World Motorsports Championship. We're going to run 3 rounds of our championship and 5 points for each winner. This is round 1. We're currently on a rallycross track in Norway in rain, which becomes a blizzard, and we're in LMP1 cars. After which, we're going to be racing on ice in classic Formula 1 cars. And then we're going to finish with our Indy 100 laps round Indy. It's good to see you, mate. I hope you're well.
Hey, BJ.
Now, the problem you've got is if anyone is here for the usual Failcast F1, you may have noticed it's kind of hard for us to or at least it's hard for me to host, because this is my first stream using my wheel. But also, I'm driving an LMP1 on a rallycross track, and I don't know what I did to the setup, but it feels a lot better.
Hey. Clearly getting that suspension down for good LMP1 jumps. That's what it was. Yeah, I agree, though, that I don't think Ocon is capable of spicing it up either. I think he'd be maybe a bit better at sticking his oar in. And I guess the problem for me with Bottas and his improvements is a Bottas on top of his game when Lewis on top of his game. Like, where does that stack in the pantheon of everyone else on the grid? Because he could be doing an absolutely stunning job against, like, because we know as much as I do wish that he would go and have some mental like happy times. When Hamilton's on form and he's doing top-notch racing, he is absolutely world class, as much as it pains me. Oh, hello. Oh, goodbye.
No, you threw me off.
Yeah.
I thought I could actually win this one.
Plenty of time for me to spin it yet. And I can't. Yeah. What I can't work out is where does like that. I can't work out where.
I can see us both sneaking.
I can't work out if Bottas on top of his game when Lewis is on top of his is better than, say, a 98% Ocon or a Perez or a what? Because it's so difficult to quantify.
It is. I'll just take a quick aside to answer Beetlejuice's questions while I've got the brain power.
Is his question, what the fuck are we doing?
I've already answered that one. I got a Thrustmaster T300 RS that I don't know how to use. Another question I'll come back to, because it's corners again now and I can't do the corners. Yeah, I mean, it's difficult, right? I don't really want to blame Mercedes for having a dominant season, right? Because that's what everyone aims for. And it's, you know, if Lewis is driving so well and the car's working, that's fine. It's almost like, again, Ferrari are throwing it away. And it makes me more and more convinced, actually, that the rumours of Vettel retiring could have some truth to them.
Yep. New fresh lease of life. That's been another 5 years after Alonso having 5 years of the crack of the whip. Now that's 5 years of Vettel having a crack at the whip too. Time for the change. Leclerc to the front, lead it on, and whoever it is they want to bring in alongside. I seem to remember you saying Perez actually at one point.
Perez and Pete. I heard someone on. Oh shit! I've lost it completely now. I heard someone on a radio show. I have no idea where I'm going. There we go. That's the track. Looks like the track. I'm just taking the same corner twice. That's all. But it's good to be sure. I heard someone mention Grosjean, and I'm thinking, with his form at Haas, I really don't see that as necessary.
Not at all. He's at the moment probably one of my prime reason people to not be on the grid at all for 2020.
Although he will ensure that we have a very, very watchable second season of the F1 documentary.
Yes.
I'm already clamming up for it. I really want to see Gunter Steiner going mental behind the scenes.
I've been enjoying the Banter Steiner Twitter account. Thank you for telling me about that.
Oh! No!
Oh, sorry.
Was that you?
Yeah.
I thought even I'm not that incompetent.
No, it was me.
Oh, we have to do this more often. Beetlejuice does suggest, actually, that we should do Le Mans at some point. I kind of like that idea.
Yeah. I'm terrible
maybe
at
we
that
can do
circuit,
that between maybe we can do that between the next seasons. Because we're both terrible at IndyCar, to be honest. And that's just driving in circles. I tell you what, though, the little practice I've got for doing IndyCar on this stream has given me new respect for it, because it's fucking terrifying.
Yeah, those cars are bulky as fuck. I do like the way how, in this game, should they ever have wanted to, the amount of dirt and crap that is sprayed all over the LMP1 cars looks very convincing for slush.
It does. Well, again, you have beaten me and lapped me. You are the George Russell to my one-armed bandit. Who we will get to in due course.
Mm-hmm. We're looking at you, Roberto.
Alright, we'll move on to round 2. We'll bash it out quick, and then we'll get onto IndyCar. And maybe there it's a bit easier for us to concentrate and actually host the podcast. But to get back onto our original topic, it definitely, for me, is the most boring season that we've had in a ridiculously long time.
Oh, it's chucked us out.
Can't be called the one-armed bandit if you don't steal anything. I would agree with you, except he's obviously stolen a lot. He's stolen the Williams Formula One team. He's stolen Esteban Ocon's seat. Okay, we will be driving the classic Lotus Type 49 Cosworth. And now I need to find the right track, which seems to have been removed.
What would you have a different respect for the season if Mercedes won every single race?
It's a good question. Probably not.
I wouldn't either. I'd be very bored. I'd be like tipping my hat and going, well done, but don't fucking do that again.
Yeah. Well, we've not had that since McLaren, right?
Yeah, they done 15 out of 16 in 88, was it?
88 or 89.
Yeah, one of the two.
Is not solely on Kubica. I couldn't agree more. Although I'm doing my best to love them this year, I really am.
That is true. Especially
if ever a team needed some support, it's that one now. I will keep the weather the same. We're actually going to, for some reason, my Swedish ice track is no longer installed, but I've got a Canadian ice track, so we will go there.
Oh yeah, this game has a weird thing where you think the game is installed until you try something new, and then it's like, installing it now, and I'm like, why are you doing that, PC2? But yeah, William, just to pick up on the Williams point, Paddy Lowe has officially left today. So
imagine my surprise.
That garden must be looking fabulous.
Yeah, I tell you what, his begonias are coming in beautifully, mate.
That's what she said. Let's put the pressure on. What? Oh, have we got snow tyres?
Yeah, apparently so.
I'd never thought the day would come where I'd see a Lotus in snow tyres.
Did we have an engineering downfall like this before? That's a good question. I don't know, because I think McLaren is an example of a team that's had a habit of producing some dogs every now and then, but they always seem to be able to sort of develop themselves out of it, didn't they? Oh, that was a nasty spin.
Yeah, they have, and I think, like, for me, this year for McLaren, it's really, I've been taking so much up. That was basically my feel-good story from France, was McLaren. And it's so awesome to have been able to see them start to at least develop themselves back out of everything again. No shock to me that it's happened as soon as Fernando Alonso has taken his beautifully Spanish poison chalice off.
No, we even predicted that at the start of the year.
Yeah.
It's been the story of Nando's career, hasn't it? Like, every team he's at gets their shit together as soon as he's no longer with them.
Yeah.
Do you know, I think this would be a lot more even if I was using my pad.
I think so as well, because actually this doesn't feel too bad.
I'm just so scared to go near the throttle. It bites like an angry dog. What Beetlejuice was actually asking was, in terms of staff, I suppose, he points out that Lowe was in good standing 3 years ago with Mercedes. I actually can think of an example. Do you recall the designer of Minardi's former chief designer?
Gustav Brunner.
Gustav Brunner, who went on to Toyota.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not so much he had an engineering downfall, but he had a reputational. There was a lot of people on the grid who, while maybe understanding his motives, lost a lot of respect for him. But I don't think I can necessarily think of a case where a team's downfall has been so firmly planted at the foot of a single man. Save perhaps Martin shit-eating Grin Whitmarsh, Kevin McLaren.
Yeah, he was.
But I mean, he's not really an engineer so much as he was the team principal.
Would you say?
You know,
yeah.
Because even Adrian Newey's made some dog cars in his career, but he's never sort of been hauled over the coals as much as Paddy Lowe. It makes me wonder actually if Paddy's maybe been a little too harshly treated. I mean, I still think it was right that he goes, but Beetlejuice makes a good point actually, that I can't think of any other examples of a single name being tied so explicitly to failure.
No, I do remember in the early 90s Adrian Newey being sacked from the March lot, I think.
Wasn't that over money?
Yeah.
Rather than performance?
Yeah, but I guess...
When did he go to Williams? Like 91? And wasn't the 89 March really good?
Something like that. It was a bit directional performance-wise.
Oh, shit!
Oh no, I think... Come on.
Credit where it's due, Beetlejuice. Credit where it's due. Well, you go into IndyCar with a very clear lead in this unlikely World Motorsport Championship.
It's
Don't
so
worry,
gorgeous
people.
just to
IndyCar
watch
we're going to
you.
do seriously.
It's so gorgeous just to watch you squirm.
I know. You got your elbows out a bit there.
Zaz. Oh, straight into a ball.
Well, that's exactly where we're going to go at the Brickyard, so... to be honest, it's generally a coin toss as to who has more aero damage than the other. That's the learning of our virtual motorsport careers. One of us at any given time has aero damage, but who has most is absolutely a coin toss. Often it's both of us, because, you know, why be selective? It's another win to the Simon. Tell you what, I'm starting to get the hang of my wheel a little bit. I've never driven with a wheel before. And I've been having real trouble in the F1 game. And as I was saying to you before we went live, it's because when you drive with a pad, what constitutes full lock is kind of like dynamic. So when you press the controller stick fully to the right, for example, what that does varies depending on the angle of the corner you're going to, whereas with a wheel it doesn't.
Yeah.
So, lame. Right then, sir, are you ready for today's main event? And maybe we can actually present this mofo.
Yes.
I am driving the AJ Foyt car because it has my number 41.
I've been using the Pipperman one just because it was pink. But I don't know if it lets me change differently, actually. Does it let me do?
Right, I need to turn off the weird weather. We don't want to be driving in a storm, do we? Or do we?
No.
Because it's scary enough as it is. Do I put variable weather? Or do we just keep it sunny?
I'd keep it sunny. I think we might struggle enough as it is.
Okay. Pit stops are mandatory.
There it is, my Dale coin. Select a route. 100 laps.
Actually, I'll get rid of that formation lap. We don't need it.
Alright.
So I take it you boys didn't buy the pre-release version of F1 2019? No, we didn't.
Nope.
Because we learned a few years ago, because when we first started this podcast, like the first few years, we always used to stay up on launch night and we'd do like a live broadcast or a recording from midnight onwards for a few hours to give our views on it, and that was when we were like YouTube only. But the last sort of 4 years or so, it's become less worthwhile doing it because we don't get the pre-release keys that all the other streamers have, and then we're no longer giving content that's especially standing out. So no, we're just going to pick up career mode and whatever come the weekend, because I think you said you're streaming on Friday as well, right, Simon? I'm going to stream Friday afternoon before I fly, starting my career mode with my wheel. Going to be super incompetent.
I'll be definitely streaming. I'll be probably focusing a bit more on the Formula 2 content, some of the online stuff. I might try out some of the league things as well, just to see what happens. But so I have pre-ordered, but I didn't go for the Prost or Senna one because I read that it was just a couple of time trials and some liveries, and I'm really not that fussed for an extra £12. So
no, it's quite a lot, isn't it?
For what it is, yeah.
We'll talk about the game in a little bit. We should get back to the French Grand Prix, I guess. Are you ready, sir?
Yep, bear with me. I'm just making sure I've got my actual setup. I've called it Stable Oval. Stable setup for ovals. Right, go on then.
Oh, hold on. I didn't add the AI.
Oh.
Fucking idiot. How do I back out here? There we go. We want to exit. Sorry, everyone. I'm a fucking moron. There was some stuff from the French Grand Prix I didn't want to talk about. You've already mentioned McLaren. Let's try and get this show back on track, shall we? Let's talk McLaren. I was really, really, really unbelievably happy about their qualifying performance. That's exactly what I wanted from them. I wanted to see McLaren back on the upswing. I wanted to see them... how big is an IndyCar grid? Oh, it can only be 16.
33. So it'd be 31 anyway.
Yeah, it can only be 16 apparently.
Oh, because we're online. Okay.
Yeah. Alright. I don't know whether this form's going to carry over, because it could very well be track specific. I know they've been taking some steps forward through the year, but it's really too early to say based off that performance exactly what's going on, right? And I felt bad for Lando because obviously, look,
yeah, poor hydraulics.
but still, I mean, that's the weekend they've been needing for about fucking 4 years now, right? Just something to give the people in the factory a little bit of a boost and to show that they're moving in the right direction.
Yeah. Oh. Yeah. And what was really, really good as well was that even... I suppose what made it sweeter for me was that Renault tooted, this weekend's going to be the big upgrade weekend. This weekend's going to be the big upgrade weekend. And we've been... It's as much as I poke fun at everything that Autosport seemed to put in a video, because they detest McLaren so much, and it's so obvious that they have this bias, and all the comments are just like, why are you hating on McLaren? They've been going... basically telling Renault, I don't know why you're shouting about this, because big update packages just don't work anymore. It's about the small incremental constant improvements, because if you oversell a big step up and it doesn't work, a bit like how Force India's didn't work, Racing Point Badger Stroll, sorry, didn't work.
Yeah, get it right, Crofty.
Soz. How that didn't work for them in Spain and hasn't worked since. You're almost setting yourself up to fail unless you just keep on going, it's incremental. And so when that didn't really work out for them, I mean, they had a good race, but that Renault versus the McLaren, that is now talking about which is the best Renault car overall. And I wouldn't have thought coming into this season that I'd be genuinely thinking McLaren could be the best of those Renault teams.
No, me neither. It's also funny to watch Haas self-immolate.
Yes.
Like, what's going on for those boys, I have no idea.
That's all gone a bit almost self-harmy by the way how it's gone along. They're just all despondent and horribly miserable, yet quite funny at the same time.
I changed gear way too early out of panic.
Ooh, right across the nozzle. Oh,
was that me?
That was you. That's me through.
You're in a different car. I was looking for pink.
So yeah, it wouldn't let me change.
How very dare they?
That's all right. I've got the Doom computer game on the side, so. If I can't be pink, at least I can be geek and Mashiq.
Oh, I'm gonna ruin my tyres. That's the one thing I've learned. I can't seem to keep pace with everybody and not completely tan my tyres. Yeah, I mean, what I'm liking is I think changing the driver lineup at McLaren did as much as what they've done behind the scenes, because I think Sainz is proving himself a fairly competent and safe pair of hands. And then what I love about Norris is how self-critical he is. I mean, I think he goes a little bit over the top on himself, but he does have some self-awareness that, you know, he has to be right. He has to be in the right headspace. He has to be behaving appropriately to keep team morale up, but also has to be happy to voice critique. Oh, we're racing.
I can see you. I'm staying high.
Sainz is the most underrated driver on the grid at the moment. I completely agree.
Yes.
But Simon and I have been saying that since he was at Toro Rosso with the teenage sensation Max Verstappen. Heartthrob Dutch pin-up.
Yeah, and what I find really interesting, yes, Lando Norris is doing an exceptional job, but it seems to be a better thing to talk about how well Lando Norris is doing to be in and around Sainz, rather than saying that Sainz is doing better. And I just feel like it's the same narrative that was peddled with the Verstappen versus Sainz battle. And
I kind of give credence to both viewpoints, actually.
Yeah.
Because again, I think Sainz is doing a great job, but also, you know, the fact Lando is performing at the level he is is I don't think we've hoped for much of a better start, really.
No. It makes me slightly sad on the inside that they had such a messy couple of Grand Prix at Bahrain and maybe possibly China as well. I can't remember. There was two specific races where it was just all a bit messy for McLaren. So just think of how many more points there would have been on the board if that would have worked out nicely. That's not you going round, is it?
No! Yeah. Oh, fuck.
Ah.
I wasn't prepared for the draft. I got in the draft and then came out of it and came back into it rapidly, and now someone's hit me and my car's upside down.
Oh no!
I think I have to retire. How does that work now?
It'll flip you back, surely.
No, no, it doesn't.
Touchpad resets you.
Does it?
I think so.
No, it doesn't. I'm hanging here like a cow.
I'm like a cow. Like a cow. I can't see you. Where are you?
I'm in the infield before turn 2.
Ah, okay, right. I'll get you next lap.
I can't do anything. What arsehole hit me? I'm pressing all my buttons. What's this? Race strategy. I think we're a bit beyond that now. Oh, there we go. There is a reset button, but I don't know what it was. And now I'm like 3 laps down.
We're only 7 laps in. Do you want to go again? Or?
Yeah, let's try and restart that, shall we? Sorry, everybody. I was encouraged by how closely we were racing there.
Yeah.
We were actually on similar pace.
Yeah.
I just have to make sure not to fluff my start this time, because I accidentally switched up to 3rd. My finger twitched. And my revs weren't built up enough, so it completely screwed me. Right. Back again.
Oh my god, we're back again.
Oh, they're back on tour as well.
Yes. That's only my... Yes, I had some school friends that went to go and see them. Strangely.
Of course you did. Did you see that all of the Red Bull family...
Spice Girls.
Including Mr. E himself.
Could you imagine him spazzing out and breaking all kinds of everything as it just all falls apart? I would be wetting myself.
Yes, I can. Are you changing your car?
Yeah, just bear with me a second. That's not what I wanted to do. I can't get used to pressing square. There we go. Right. Pretty in pink, baby.
Excellent. So now we can do this right. Now? Sorry. Yeah, there we go. Now I see.
I thought
okay, so for like the 5th time, let's try and start this F1 podcast. I've been laughing too much, that's the problem. I don't remember the last time I laughed so much in an episode, to be honest, because those opening events were very fun. Right, yeah, no, I agree. Norris is maybe getting more credit than Sainz, but I think maybe that's also a sign that people just expected it from Sainz.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think it's necessarily that Sainz has a bad reputation, it's just he's not appreciated enough for what he does. And I think Hülkenberg went through a lot of that in his career. Because, for a long time, Hülkenberg was supposed to be knocking on the door of a top drive, but then the top teams really didn't want a driver that large. Yeah, it's a fair point, BLG. It's also because Norris is British, and he's in a British car. Which I think is also doing Russell a world of good. And to be honest, it does give me the warm fuzzies when Williams have a British driver. Right. I'm not as high on the grid. Oh, I'm higher on the grid this time. I'm on the front row. Ooh, la-di-da.
Nice.
Right. So, I would concur. And again, I think a lot of McLaren's resurgence is as much down to having the right people in the car as anything else. And I'm wondering now, given how they sort of embarrassed themselves at Indy, which is why we're driving Indy today, to prove that we can do it with Honda, that it kind of makes me wonder what the future is for Alonso's relationship with them. Because he already started saying at the start of the year, oh, well, maybe I will come back next year. And I was thinking, if you put either one of those drivers out of a seat because you were too stubborn and selfish to just retire at this point, then I'm going to be very unhappy, because he derailed Kevin Magnussen's career, although he has kind of recovered. Yeah. If you can call what he's driving now a recovery, given he's got a car that essentially had naught but qualifying pace and has now sacrificed that
for no pace at all.
But it's interesting, actually, nice segue, it's interesting to see that relationship come under strain for the first time, because I mean, I think K-Mag's done an excellent job at Haas, so I'm not going to critique him, but he's always been their golden boy, and I think that's because, you know, Grosjean's been
AWOL.
Well, he's had a certain Ronald McDonald quality to him. How good would Magnussen look next to Ocon? That's a good question, but I think it's very easy to just presume not very well. But I don't know if that's necessarily the case, because we've never seen Magnussen in a genuinely good car. And I have to say, like, his first season at Haas, he was one of the best overtakers of the season by my measure.
Yep. And for me as well, going back to his debut in 2014 in the McLaren, was not shy and not slower, particularly than Button at all, who then matched up well against Fernando. I just think...
shit, not again.
Oh, man down. Nice
Very
reverse of route.
Thank you. Somehow I'm not last, so that's something.
It's an interesting thing. I know it's good to just stick Ocon in everywhere, but yes, he's very good. I would put him in instead of Grosjean as against Magnussen, but Ocon is not the panacea for that team sorting itself out. But it will be interesting to see that, because looking after the Netflix documentary, as you say, K-Mag was the golden boy. K-Mag was basically told, remember, you're part of a team, to stop moaning like a biatch, and he was very sorry and apologetic afterwards. That is exactly the moment where Grosjean needs to stop being so so I don't understand, I need something, man, I need something. That's the exact moment where he goes, I've been at this team since the beginning, we've won this, we've worked ourselves up together, we can do this, and get the team back around him again, if that makes sense. So I'd be interested to see if he tries that kind of move, because otherwise they will just continue to bandy around K-Mag, I reckon.
Well, he'll have to start finishing races, I think, to be able to pull off that manoeuvre, and start being invited to team parties again, which was one of the funniest scenes from last year's F1 documentary for me. The fact they all have a party and he's not invited. I see a lot of people suggesting that Perez should go to Haas.
Don't know why.
That's actually one of the most common driver move discussions I see online. And I find it hard to say it's a bad idea, actually. But at some point, I think Haas have to take a chance at new blood. Mm-hmm. Good question, Beetlejuice. Why would Perez do that? Well, a long time ago, there was supposed to be an under-the-table deal for him to go to Ferrari, and I am hearing his name linked with replacing Vettel, if Vettel chooses to retire. Yeah. And maybe like Haas is a way of slipping into a Ferrari seat, which was originally why Grosjean went there, if you recall.
Yep.
That it was supposed to be, do a few years at Haas, and when Raikkonen goes, you can maybe have his seat. Mm-hmm. Now, obviously, what they didn't count on was just how Romain Grosjean is. he's widely believed, and I think many emeritus professors would concur. He's understood to be amongst the most Romain Grosjeaniest of people alive today, which means he does prove to be a pretty bad fit. Beetlejuice says he also hears Mick Schumacher's name linked with Ferrari and replacing Vettel. I wouldn't be surprised, but I think that's
too early.
Very much jumping the gun.
Way too early. He's midfield in F2 at the minute. It's not good enough. He's got to that F2 a year early for my liking on name alone, which is fine. That's how the business works. But in the last 5 rounds, he's not scored. He's crashed out of 3 of them. Admittedly, in France, one of them was totally not his fault. Jean Galeo, Mr. Kentucky Fried Chicken. I don't know if you've seen this move. Sorry, it's a bit of a side note. But Galeo in the F2 race basically decided to not take a corner and just dive down the inside, and then went, oh, I should brake, because it turns right, and then just smashes into his teammate and takes it out. It's comical. But yeah, Mick Schumacher not ready yet, and I would not want to see him in a Haas as breeding ground for Ferrari. And I would have thought, if he's going to go anywhere, it would be Giovinazzi out, Mick in.
But no, I think Giovinazzi's starting to turn a corner, though, isn't he, really? But it just points out also that Mick Schumacher had a stellar F3 season.
Second half. He takes a while to get used to something, which is why I want him to have a full second year in F2 so that he can come with results rather than bearing the name and promise, if that makes sense.
No, I'm totally with you on that. I mean, we can see how badly this goes wrong as well, because whisper his name quietly, because we don't want him to come back, but we all remember Bruno Senna.
Yes. Who wasn't too bad in the Hispania, although Chandok did show him up on occasion. And then he got showed up by Pastor Maldonado, if everyone remembers. So... lol at that.
You have to work pretty hard. You have to get up pretty early in the morning to lose to him. I mean, in Pastor's defence, he's fast. I would never say he's not fast.
Oh,
but
no.
The skill in motor racing has never been about going fast. That's the easy bit. It's about, the stopping and getting around the corners. My pace has completely gone away.
Same. I've got the entire AI train that was stuck behind you when you spun. I've recalled you back up again.
Beetlejuice reckons if Vettel retires, Ferrari will knock on Lewis's door. I kind of agree, but actually I think they'd go to Verstappen first, because I think Lewis will stay at Mercedes until the formula change.
Yeah.
Because
to
it's
ensure he gets
basically
those 7 titles.
It's basically a free ticket to equaling Schumacher's record.
Yeah.
And then he'll either retire or he'll do 1 season in the new formula to see if Mercedes is still there. I mean, I think actually, I know we had a very interesting off-season this year with a lot of interesting driver moves, but I think next year is going to be even more interesting, because what we know at the moment so far is that Toto has pledged to get Esteban Ocon a seat. The rumour is Williams. I'm not totally convinced, because I actually think they'd take Latifi, because he's already testing for them, and it seems there's some sort of cosy relationship there. What's almost certain is Kubica is gone and Grosjean is gone, and then once you've got even 1 seat freed up, it's not always just 1 empty seat, 1 move, right? Sometimes it can start off a chain reaction, and what's really going to be interesting is if a Haas seat opens up. Or even spicier, if Vettel retires, then suddenly I think most of the grid is going to start moving around at that point.
Yeah.
Because almost certainly Perez will be trying to get out of Racing Point, I think. Because, I mean, why wouldn't he? He's coming to the second half of his career, arguably.
Yep.
It's kind of shit or get off the pot. And while he's had a really great time at Force India Badger Stroll Racing Eyebrows, how much time is he going to give them after all this disruption to rebuild, and will they ever be a team that can challenge for a title? When I think of who could realistically replace Vettel, who wasn't a young driver. So thinking about people with experience and who are available, I would argue that it's hard to see past Perez, actually.
I can only see Perez or Hulkenberg.
Yeah.
Because Ricciardo's now nailed himself to the mast at Renault. Hulkenberg has already had previous discussions with Ferrari back in 2013, even if it didn't come to fruition necessarily. I don't know if anything has kind of changed or not changed. That I think will depend on how he reacts with Ricciardo this season. But outside of that, you're right. Everyone else is already kind of nailed into a place to their masts because they've chose where they need to go. Verstappen may be the other one that will dive because Honda isn't giving him up. The other interesting one, I think, as well, will be who will replace Gasly because he's not staying there.
I don't know, actually. I think they may let him see out the season, but wouldn't it be funny for Kvyat to end up back there? And to my mind, he's the obvious choice.
Yeah. It's bizarre because the only other thing I could think of is that if they give it to Albon and then they put Gasly up against the rejuvenated Kvyat and basically do a battle of the rejects to see who wins.
Yeah. But again, that nullifies the point of Toro Rosso, right? And I think teams are starting to learn their lesson now when it comes to putting drivers into a top car after only one season. I mean, Leclerc and Verstappen are anomalies rather than the new standard, I think.
Agreed.
Beetlejuice points out that no driver is nailed to any mast when a seat at the red team is available, and I think there's some truth in that, but
that is true.
I don't know. I think Ricciardo has to kind of stick it out now at Renault. It was a gamble to go, and I would have thought actually it's a gamble that pays off, but maybe not as early as I thought. Because it's still a team that I feel will come good.
Yeah,
but then again, I've been saying that for like half a decade now. So,
but they always have done. And F1's always cyclic. So, whenever you're a bit like this Indy circuit, if you're, we've got AI starting to pit, by the way. What was I going to say? It's that Enstone team has always gone through peaks and troughs, and if I remember back to 2000, 2001, where they were battling around with the Minardis and Arrowses, then 4 years later they're up winning championships. Admittedly, the change in pace is much slower these days because you can't keep up with that so much, but and there's too much infrastructure in place to be able to make those quick swaps. But I still believe that they will get back up to being respectable, even if that is battling on the top tier rather than being necessarily a championship winning team. And 2021, I think, will go a long way to sorting that out, so long as it sticks true to its formula. The more watered down it becomes, the less likely there will be a change in the order.
I mean, I don't know, actually. The more we talk about it, the more I think actually a lot of things are opening up for questioning, like accepted truths, because what we know for certain is Verstappen signed a multi-year deal, but he has a get-out clause based on Honda and team performance, right? And we know that Mercedes have contacted him in the past. So then the question becomes, would they take an opportunity to try and seize him to replace Bottas, and then what does that do for Ocon? Would Ferrari replace Vettel with him if Vettel retires, and then thus closing out a truly open top tier seat for another year because Red Bull only promote internally? It's really hard to say. And the more we talk about it, the more I'm doubting myself. The only thing I know for certain is that Kubica is gone. Now, you might think, well, Grosjean must obviously be going, but you would have said that last year too, and arguably the year before. So he just doesn't go away. And I don't know what's going on internally at Haas, but I get the feeling they will get rid of him. But if it turned out that they didn't, I can't say I would be shocked. I really can't say I would be shocked.
No, I agree. And for me, especially now that the F1 Super License points are much more difficult to come across these days, unless you're in Formula 2 and so on and so forth, because they wanted to deal with that structure. There's less chance of being able to be promoted from other sources, which kind of makes the Latifi, perhaps Delatraz.
Get off the racing line, you dick. Sorry, not you.
Giotto, maybe.
Oh, fuck.
And that's about it I can think of. And Schumacher, obviously. I can't think of many other people that would dive up the order to F1. I'd love to see Delatraz in that house as the development driver at the moment. That could give me no end of joy.
There's Dan Ticktum as well, though.
But he's now over in Super Formula and not doing very well, so he won't actually gain the amount of...
Excuse me, you did not pronounce that correctly.
Dan Compton?
No.
Oh.
Super Formula!
Oh, sorry, my bad.
Yeah. Just we've got to have some level of professionalism on this show. Yeah.
I've not watched Sugo yet, no spoilers in the chat, I see you all watching.
Because, I kind of thought that... oh shit, I'm running out of fuel.
Yeah, I just had to
Looks like I'm coming in next lap.
Ready? Go!
Right, off and away.
Have you just pitted?
Yeah. There you are, going past me.
Pip.
Up into 8.
You're miles ahead of me, though, because I've spun twice.
You're faster, though.
I crashed into a How am I faster and still last?
You're not...
Well, not last, but...
Also grim at getting back up to speed. It feels so slow.
Oh.
But lol, we've both already got further than Alonso did.
How am I... I've run out of fuel.
Yeah, it's litres, not laps. I noticed that right at the very end because I was like, oh, I've got 11 litres left. And all of a sudden I was like, no.
I'm out of the race again.
No.
Yeah, it's not like F1. Is there a button I can press?
Hang on.
What do I do?
I'm coming, mate. I'm coming.
Oh, thank you.
We can do this.
Can you give me another? Yeah.
Yeah, I got it.
Team effort. Go. No.
No, not that way. Oh, shit.
We've gone skew-if.
Where have we gone? Oh, hang on, I'm reversing. Where are you? Oh, fuck. Come on. Right. If I do let me do the front.
This is an amazing piece of teamwork.
We can do this! Right, we're back on.
I'm in neutral, so that should make it a bit easier. Go.
I don't care, pretend Jeff, for being 2 laps down on the leader. It's got me stuck at 16 miles an hour because I'm trapped up your rear end. Hang on.
Yeah, that's it. Now we're getting somewhere. Push me.
Go.
I'm really astonished we haven't been black flagged. You're slowing down as well now.
It's because my temperature, I think, was going up. There we go.
Oh, it turns out I even came into the pits on the wrong entry point. What is this? Go. We're so close now.
We can do this.
And then it's just a race to see which of us can not be last. Go. I'm willing you on.
Come on.
We're so close.
Right, that should get you in. No?
The AI's taken over. Oh, there we go. It's just popped me in my pit box.
Oh, okay. I'm just driving down the pit lane. I saw you grind to a halt. I was like, no. Cheers, fam. Meep, meep.
No, it's retired me. It's retired me.
No!
All that effort. Like, oh, let me see if I can do anything here. No, that's me out.
We got you back. We got you back. Fuck it.
Can we watch on board with you? I wonder.
I think you can go into spectate.
Yeah, retire to pit box. There we go. Monitor. And then we don't want to look at me. That's wrong. Can we
you have to need to you go into the standings and then watch it and then get rid of the standings if I remember rightly.
Oh, I just saw you. You were on screen for a brief moment.
Wow, that has ruined my...
Oh, there we go. There we go.
My beautiful tyres ruined.
Right, now we're on board with you. Well, we're watching you. Right.
Okay.
Okay, so... I'm sorry I've ruined your race now.
That's alright.
I thought it was laps. On the fuel gauge, I thought it was laps.
So did
anyway.
I, but clearly not.
Anyway, speaking of Toro Rosso,
Yeah.
an impressive qualifying session for them. Kind of fell apart in the race. What I found interesting was that the new engine didn't seem to make much difference, did it really?
No, because they was nose to tail for the entire event. And then came home nose to tail afterwards. So they kind of said, oh yeah, it was a positive test. And I was thinking, was it?
Yeah, I mean, it didn't fail. So I suppose if that's your criteria, then sure.
Yeah.
But
because I can't remember if it... Was it an upgrade for performance or reliability? I don't actually know.
I believe it's supposed to be for performance.
Oh, okay.
If I remember correctly. But nevertheless, didn't quite pay off. And that's the sort of thing that tells me maybe Verstappen is eyeing around his options, you know, especially if things go the way we seem to think they might. I wish I'd captured that. That was a nice collision. Very tasty.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, I sort of think that I wouldn't be surprised anyway if Verstappen swooped in and took a top seat out of the jaws of victory from someone else. It just strikes me as something that wouldn't necessarily be conducive to the best racing, because I think Verstappen is being able to put himself in an interesting position in that Red Bull, and if the car can just gain a little bit more performance at some of the tracks, he's going to be in there in the mix anyway. And I imagine if you replaced him with Kvyat, the whole team's going to go backwards a bit, and then we're really left with potentially only one viable team at the front. I mean, it's a really hard thing to say. It's nice to see the drivers making a difference, but there's something just inherently dull about this season. I can't think of the last time I enjoyed so few races at the start of the season. And just the way the teams are being managed, and the regulations, and the drivers that are where they are.
The penalties.
Yeah, the penalties as well, which we will get onto, because I do want to talk particularly about Danny Rick's penalties. The whole thing just seems to make me want to turn off, and I find myself watching just the highlights of races at the moment. And I don't get that feeling anymore, you know, like the first lap jitters where you think this could go any way. Maybe there's an incident at the first corner, maybe Leclerc gets down the inside. It feels like being resigned to Mercedes dominance now, and I don't think that's good for anybody. And it makes it very hard, I think, to even evaluate other drivers, because what I've noticed with the coverage, if you remember a few years ago when, particularly when Channel 4 took over the UK coverage, you started to see a lot more coverage of the back markers.
Yeah.
And that seems to have been reversed again now. And I feel like, screen time is dominated by the red and silver cars, and then the sort of the regular faces that pop up, namely the Renaults, I think, get their fair share of screen time.
Yeah.
Raikkonen, obviously. But you very rarely see much of the Williams. Now, I know they're running on their own, but they do have some battles between them, and you do see them swap places occasionally, but there never seems to be any coverage of that.
Yep.
And the only time I seem to see the Haas cars is in qualifying or when one of them retires. And,
or the team radio that comes out with one of them.
Yeah, and it makes it hard to, I think, objectively evaluate the performance of a lot of the drivers.
Yeah.
Because, particularly with Haas, I find, because is Magnussen still doing a good job and they've just really messed up the car, or has something gone off the boil for him? I think it's kind of hard to call.
Mm-hmm.
At least we're starting to get a clearer picture with some of the teams. It's interesting to see Danny Rick starting to find his feet at Renault. I still think they've got a hell of a long way to go.
Yeah.
And I think he'll be as surprised as the rest of us that the Red Bull-Honda partnership has kicked off so strongly. But even that is not so certain now, right? Because if you look at it, it seems like a strong start is starting to peter out a little bit, almost like they've stalled. Yeah. And they're very much in a no man's land. I think the gap is too big to close by the end of the year.
I agree. It seems much worse than what it was last year, with way less peaks. Like when it came to Monaco, we was like, cool, this would be Red Bull territory. Not this year. It was just we might be able to close them up a few tenths. And I'm kind of thinking, well, where has that kind of petering peak gone then? Because that would be a circuit for them, as would Mexico and Japan. But now, it doesn't feel like that at all. And it will just be we're slightly closer to those front two, rather than actually being able to make it a genuine 3-team race. I wonder what's changed there. And you look at it and you instantly think, well, maybe Honda then.
Yeah, because, I think you would find it hard to find anybody who would dispute that Verstappen's driving possibly at his best ever. Really.
Agreed.
I agree with Will Buxton's analysis that he is probably the driver of the season this year.
Mm-hmm.
This is the Max Verstappen I wanted to see all along.
Yep.
He can still do to work on his attitude in interviews a little bit, but more or less, it's great to see him delivering consistently in a level-headed way. He hasn't been making the blunders that he has. And I think that combination of sort of a stalling Red Bull-Honda relationship and Verstappen at top of his game makes what would have been a fairly stable situation, which is, pleasantly surprised by Honda, I'll give them another year or two, maybe we can together push for the title, to him probably now thinking, maybe this is my time, maybe this is my window, and I just need to be in the right car as soon as possible.
Yeah.
Whether his patience that he's gained on track extends to other areas of his career will be what's telling, I think.
Yeah, that will be, because you know that Jos will be on the door going, I've beaten up women, I can beat up bosses. So
yeah.
It makes it difficult.
Punching Claire Williams for no conceivable reason.
Yeah, exactly.
I just... the more we talk about it, the more I find it hard to place, actually, in terms of what's going to happen.
Yeah.
What worries me is that I don't feel entirely convinced that things are going to be any better going into 2020 either. Because we're nearing the end of the life of this formula. I know there was some minor changes for this year, but it seems like Mercedes' dominance has been so firmly ingrained that the small changes they've made haven't really done much to unseat them. I know last year's car was a bit more temperamental, but then so is Vettel's driving.
Yeah.
And actually, something that occurred to me seeing him talking to the press after the French Grand Prix, something about his manner and the way he was looking made me think, there's probably some truth to this rumour he's going to retire.
Mm-hmm. He looks like a man that's given up.
Yeah, he does. And I can understand why, to be honest with you, because let's be honest, he's dropped the ball in some pretty important situations and in ways that, I mean, he's inarguably the best car on certain tracks. I mean, certainly last year. And whenever he got into any wheel-to-wheel battle, he always seemed to lose it. And some people said, well, maybe it's a characteristic of the car. The car just seems to kind of... it has a sort of, let's say, a limit of grip in the corners, which is perhaps lower than the other cars. And it just goes and just spins and it's out of his control. But the fact that it seemingly only happened to him, I think tells a different story. And I think it's natural if you go wheel to wheel with your biggest rival and spin it most of the time. While the AI is horrible in this game, it makes me think that the common denominator in all these incidents has been him. And I think any driver will be, even if they're outwardly confident and even a little arrogant, will be self-reflective enough to think, well, do you know what, maybe it's just me.
Yeah.
Maybe it's just me.
I genuinely feel as well that there are certain drivers that are particularly good at certain types of formulas as well, and maybe Vettel was king at the pre-2014 edition. And since 2014, we've had Ricciardo show him up. Yes, he had the legs on Kimi, but Kimi was battled into submission in a team game there. And yes, I mean, I'm not trying to write off Vettel for like the last 5 years, but it feels like a very different beast the more these cars become like twisted into a certain way away from what was pre-2014.
No, I agree, and it's. I think a lot of drivers have been casualties of that. If you think about it, I mean, let's look at. I mean, who we lost after 2014? That was a young driver. I mean, there's been a few, as I recall. I mean, it nearly claimed Kevin Magnussen, but for reasons beyond his control.
Yep.
Pascal Wehrlein is one. God, who was the other? There was another driver that. It's on the tip of my tongue.
Not Palmer.
I forget. But Palmer actually is probably a good example because I thought when he came into the sport that he had a fairly good chance of sticking around for a few years. I thought he would be an unremarkable midfielder.
A Di Resta.
He would fit, or I was thinking more an Adrian Sutil.
Oh, yeah.
But it just wasn't to be, and I think part of that was that the Renault that year was not especially great, but I really don't think he did himself any favours overall with his attitude either. Still though, it certainly seemed that maybe the formula just didn't suit him particularly well. Stoffel Van Dorn, that's the one I was thinking of.
Yes.
Because, I spent a lot of time slating Van Dorn, and people think I just had a personal grudge against him or just didn't like him. That's really not the case. I just think he spent his years in the junior formulae training for a formula that no longer existed. And then by the time he got to Formula One, the feeder series has prepared him for a Formula One that didn't really exist anymore, and he was up against arguably the greatest driver of his generation in a team that was in absolute limbo. So all the cards were stacked against him, but he didn't just sort of underachieve. He underachieved in a totally depressing and consistently predictable way. But he seems to be doing a lot better in Formula E, and I think that goes to show that as we see with Marcus Ericsson in IndyCar or Max Chilton, not being stellar in Formula One is no reflection on one's ability to be a world-class driver. I think, Jason Plato is amongst the greatest touring car drivers, or Alan Nanu, but put them in an F1 car and they're not going to really hold their own. So I think it becomes hard to de facto rate drivers against one another between formulas, but when you see a driver move between formulas and you can see how certain kinds of cars or certain kinds of tracks just click for them, I think you become a little bit more sympathetic to the struggles they had in Formula One. I mean, Merrickson's a great example, actually, because he's a guy that you and I were not so generous with when he started out at Caterham.
No.
But he kind of grew on us like a fungus. And now I'm kind of...
Now I root for him in every one.
Yeah, I'm kind of keenly following him in IndyCar now.
Yep.
Secretly hoping... Yeah. So, you know, when it comes to getting back on topic, when it comes to assigning drivers to F1 seats, it actually becomes a lot harder to sort of state conclusively if a grid is of the best standard it could possibly be, or if drivers on there are undeserving. The clear exceptions to that, I think, are from the current grid, Robert Kubica, who, since we were last live, actually, I took some time to dig into all this rumours around Kubica, because obviously the rumour is that Russell's being favoured and that he has the better car. The source for this, the sole source for this, was Mark Hughes, and I've not seen anyone else talk about it.
Okay.
And the interesting thing is that George Russell also beat Kubica in the chassis that Kubica binned into the wall. Which round was it?
Azerbaijan.
Correct, yeah. So, was it Canada? The round after? Kubica had the upgraded chassis.
Yeah.
Yeah, Kubica had the upgraded chassis, and Russell was in the same chassis that Kubica binned in Azerbaijan and lapped him. And I don't know, like, some people I hear saying, well, he should just go back into retirement. He's not damaged his legacy at all. I find it harder to agree with that viewpoint. I actually think, to my mind at least, his reputation has been tarnished. Because when I'm going to think about him now, this is the Kubica I'm going to think of, and that's a real tragedy. That's a real tragedy. Because if you go back to like his last year at Lotus or his last year with BMW Sauber, and you look at some of his drives and some of his qualifying performances, like, that's the Kubica that I wanted to remember.
Yeah.
And it's the Kubica everyone wanted to come back, but he's just not the same man, and the sport's not the same, and most drivers can't cut it with two functioning arms. I just don't get it. And his fans are so unbelievably toxic that I think they've done as much to damage his reputation as has his driving and the... I want to say incompetence at Williams, although I think that's maybe a little bit harsh.
Oh, disqualified. Speeding in the pits.
This has to be the failiest episode we've ever done, and I love it. I absolutely love it. I ran out of fuel, you get disqualified. But you know what? We still did better than McLaren.
We did. We qualified.
Challenge completed.
Boom.
Well, a difficult episode, but one that made me laugh immensely. I very much enjoyed the LMP1 on the mud, man. That was world class. Well, that also puts us about on the timeline that I thought we would be if we managed to do a full Indy. So, not too shabby, all in all. I don't think your lap times were too bad, were they? Really?
No, I'm just having a little look to see if it actually... Oh, no, don't cancel. Back. Oh, no, it's put me in a weird place. I was just trying to see if I could actually get some lap times up against what you had done.
Maybe we can view that on the exit, no?
Yeah, no, it's taken it away from me, so I can't see it anymore. But, hang on.
Oh, hold on, maybe if I... Oh, no, that just changes my camera. How irritating.
Damn you, PT2s.
Because I got the fastest sector 2 because the guy came on the radio and told me. Yes, I will quit this session and let's see if there's any stats left over. Maybe there's something. I got the fastest sector 2, and I briefly had the fastest lap of the session, but
Nice.
yeah, the problem I had was whenever I was near any other car, and I also don't know why I was repeatedly losing time to the cars in front when I was setting faster laps. That didn't make any sense to me. But there we have it, our first foray into IndyCar. I think we can call that a success
I
of
think
sorts.
so. A successful failure.
Yeah, I would definitely do it again. Although, to be honest, I like Beetlejuice's idea that we do Le Mans. Maybe we do a Le Mans race between seasons next year as a special event, because maybe LMP1 is actually a bit more entertaining than just driving around in circles. But oval racing, right, actually surprised me, because I just suspected oval racing to be super easy. And on one level, it is. But at the same time, like, your actual racecraft really has to change. Like, the thing that I had to get used to was staying in fifth gear.
Mm-hmm.
Because you need sixth to be able to overtake cleanly when drafting.
Yeah, that's where I was losing out. I kept on forgetting and leaving myself in sixth gear after getting the draft, and then being like, ah. And also, as well, and is understanding the draft and how loose that then makes your car, because you get so sucked into the tunnel vision of going forward that you forget that you're now going 10 kph quicker. And you can't drift up wide and just cut people off.
No, I mean, I did actually in our first run, but I got the hang of it afterwards. It was strange because you have to turn earlier than you think, don't you?
Yes.
That's what I was finding. Like, I had to begin turning before the corner started, because I guess it takes the wheels a little bit to catch. And you can feel the drop in downforce. Because what I noticed as well was that on the occasions that I span, like properly, uncontrollably span, was where the car drifted out into the draft of a car in front. And it's because suddenly, like, the air that's pinning you down must just be disrupted, and the car just went. I would have liked to be able to not run out of fuel, but that's a lesson we've learned. That the number down there is not laps, but litres. I didn't realise how many litres it used in a lap as well, because
That was a lot.
I burned like 2.7 litres in half a lap. Which, you know, no wonder America's killing the planet. That is a lot of fuel to burn. I can tell they're not on hybrid technology. To finish off, I know we didn't really review the race, but as even Beetlejuice said, there wasn't much of a race to review. No. But I do want to very, very quickly touch on particularly Renault and also the race penalties. Why don't we do the penalties first? What do you think about the Perez situation? Because on the one hand, he did follow the instructions that was given by race control, right?
Yes.
If you cut the corner, go round the bollard, rejoin the track. But he did gain 2 positions despite doing that.
He did. For me, so what I found really interesting was that surely you would have the wherewithal of knowing that the cars that you've just rejoined in front of or behind were not the cars that you left the track on. Maybe it was just you're too busy looking so you don't really get it. But actually, there was just something that made me go, surely you would know that, personally. But I found it weird. The same thing also happened, though, in Formula 3 with, I can't remember the name actually, but they got the penalty reversed and taken back off them post-race. But the problem is that obviously for Perez, he had to pit, so he's already served the penalty, so it doesn't really matter. But if you're going to add on get out clauses like that, and you see the same thing in Monza as well, down at the second chicane, that penalty loop needs to be longer and slower than the track itself, because we've had that in Monza where people rejoin back on and they're like, oh, I'm in front of everyone again. Whoops. So, issues.
He struck me as a victim of circumstance.
Yeah.
Because he was unlucky that it happened on the first lap and all the cars are bunched together, and it's very easy to gain positions anyway, because the cars are all braking in weird places to account for the cars in front. They're all slower. So it's just kind of odd to see a driver penalised for technically doing the right thing.
Yep.
Danny Rick's penalty, I think, was irritating but justified. Because the rules are the rules, right? I mean, if you don't enforce track limit penalties, then why not just cut every corner?
Yeah, the track limit one, I completely agree with. As soon as he had the four wheels on the inside, he was doomed to always be given that penalty for me personally. So, no, it made perfect sense. The one I was less excitable on was the other 5-second penalty he got for pushing Lando Norris off the track wide for an unsafe rejoin. But I think that's a victim of kind of circumstance, but also it being very, very raw, the Vettel incident. And so everyone's now penalising everyone for pushing someone off the track.
Yeah, I concur. So yeah, not a lot of chat there when we agree with each other, but I think we've managed to cover everything worth covering from the French Grand Prix.
So actually, one thing I did want to say though very quickly is that Danny Rick doing that, I don't think he'd have done that with many other drivers than Kimi Räikkönen. And I just thought it was interesting that he tried it on there with that driver, because I'd imagine a lot of other people, they would have been in the wall.
No, I agree, actually. I think you've got a lot more leeway with Kimi, or at least you can trust him more.
Yeah.
Because he's so calm and measured, and he's usually prepared for anything, that I think you can sort of get away with it. So I think you're right about that. But also, he's always been a bit cheeky like that, hasn't he?
He has.
I think that's I think that's kind of why we love him. Usually it manifests itself in the case of the late braking and the diving down the inside, but you know, he'll take his chances when he gets them. But I do agree with you that Kimi's kind of a safe person to do that with, because it takes a few prods before he bites back,
Yes.
as we saw between him and Bottas a few years back.
Yeah.
When Williams were still credible. So I do agree, and Verstappen's kind of done the same thing, right? I think there's been times that he's made moves, very Verstappen-y moves on Raikkonen, but kind of trusts that really Raikkonen's in control of the overall situation, and is more focused on finishing than he is about winning the immediate battle. And that's something we kind of criticised last year. You know, the feeling that Kimi wouldn't fight back. But also, I think he has the experience to know that it's a marathon and not a sprint, and maybe the race comes back to you over its length, although often for him it didn't.
Which I think is also one of the reasons why he's excelling in a midfield team, and it's also one of the reasons why I was really looking forward to Ricciardo being back in a midfield team, because I was thinking, oh good, well, at least we've got something going on. But I think that's one of the reasons that Kimi's doing so well, is that it's the marathon, not a sprint, and in the midfield I think there's a lot of hot-headed characters trying to make all of the places up on lap one.
I didn't actually expect Kimi to do as well as he is doing at Alfa Romeo, actually.
Agree.
But I am pleased to see it, and I would love it for him to go out strong.
Yes.
I would love for him to go out strong. I think he deserves that. And it's kind of poetic to finish your career at the team that started it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure that poetry is completely lost on Kimi Räikkönen, but it's not lost on me.
No.
Well then, sir, we are both live on Friday, I believe.
We are.
What's your plan that we can share with everybody?
I will be doing some F1 2019 live streaming, basically when the game arrives in the post. I always, if I'm pre-ordering something that I want to play on the day of release, I always go to a company called thegamescollection.com, because they have always reliably shipped out stuff well in advance. Quite often it arrives the day before, if not on the day itself. But postie doesn't normally arrive till lunch, so don't expect me on before lunch o'clock. How about yourself?
Same. I will be live at some point during the day. I actually fly to Finland in the evening.
Crazy.
So I'll be streaming as early as I can, probably around 10, 11 a.m. if Posty cooperates, or I just do a digital download. But I will also be doing career mode, and this year is going to be a bit different because it's going to be my first career mode with my wheel. And those who've been paying attention will know that switching to a wheel has knocked a vast amount of time off my laps. Particularly because I've been doing a lot of my practice. I started a new career mode on F1 2018 that I'm not streaming as practice. And in practice 1, I am 5 to 7 seconds off my usual pace.
Wow.
Which is putting me stone cold dead last in all cases. And I can't seem to get my pace back. I am on the racing line and everything, but it seems that I'm either braking too hard, not braking enough. I'm still not used to the way the wheel behaves. So my aim is to try and get as much time on the wheel as I can between now and the new game. And then I'm going to jump into career mode, bash out the F2 quickly because I believe it's not optional. And then I'm going to...
It's only 3 races,
Yeah, I've picked Williams for my career mode.
Okay.
And I will keep my difficulty level at the same level and then just do an authentic Williams career, probably where I poofle around at the back until I gain the confidence with the wheel and then try and take the team forward. I think that could be quite interesting to do, actually. Whether it's interesting to watch is a whole different matter. I'm also going to be back with Grand Prix World after I've been in Finland. And I'm going to be streaming some City Skylines.
Hey.
Yeah, I am loving that game.
You do that.
Very much, and I've been doing a lot of practice of my city building strong style because I was always really bad at it and too impatient, but I'm getting the hang of it now, so hopefully that can be fun.
Is that on PC or console?
I've got it on PC, but I'm also going to get it on console, I think. But I'll probably stream it PC, I guess. It depends if my PC's up to it. In any respect, it's definitely going to be happening. So, I will be seeing a lot more of you. Thank you to everyone who joined. We had more viewers than usual because we were doing something unusual. Not everyone was able to stick around, but it was nice to see some new faces pop in. I hope everyone enjoyed it. It was a bit of an unconventional episode, and I know we didn't get as much news in as possible because we had to use a lot more brain power, even though it didn't look like it. But we'd love to hear your feedback about whether that was interesting, whether it's something you think we should do every year, whether you just want us to shut up and do F1 or do Le Mans. But we will both see you maybe this weekend. What do you say, sir?
Yeah, that sounds good to me. I'm looking forward to it.
We will start our new Failcast season on F1 2019 this Sunday. Please do join us, and we will be reviewing the Austrian Grand Prix, which is hopefully less of a snorefest than this one. You guys take care, and we'll see you soon.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Yeah. I enjoyed that. Good fun.